Hi everyone, and welcome to week 6. Last week, Megan and Nick facilitated some great discussions about uncertainty and risk. This week we will consider rights, ethics and justice, and using a case study I will illustrate an example of when the rights of nature have been explicitly recognised. Fundamental human rights were adopted into the laws of all nations at the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. It has since been recognised that human rights and environmental rights are intertwined. Without a healthy environment, we would perish, and so we need to look after it. We should look after it. Where should is used in a sentence, we are beginning a discourse of ethics. Ethics means being true to ourselves and our conscience, and having the courage to stand up for what we believe in, the courage to make difficult decisions and to act upon them for the benefit of what is right. Environmental ethics was born to manage the complex relationships between the ecological health of an area, the social well-being of those who live there, and the economic success of the region. Ethics is about relationships and the distribution of risk between communities. Previously, many ethics philosophers didn't think non-human entities were worthy of ethical treatment. Thankfully, there are more now who believe that nature and all living things have sentience, whether we understand it or not, and deserve our respect and ethical treatment. Environmental justice is the natural progression from this ethical discourse. By definition, environmental justice takes an ecocentric standpoint, whereby everything is equally important in the complex web of nature, and we recognise the sacred in all things. In reality, all is not equal. Wealth can buy almost anything, and those lacking in wealth are usually the most vulnerable. The ability to achieve justice is dependent on race, gender, culture, religion, and economic status. How do we achieve justice for those entities who have no status? My case study is the Whanganui River in the North Island of Aotearoa, New Zealand. It is such an important part of the traditional spiritual practices of the local Maori people that on March 20, 2017, after many years of policy debate, it was recognised as a living being. Te Awa Tupua, the legal name of the river entity, now has all the rights, powers, duties and liabilities of a legal person. 3 ancestral groups originally inhabited the region and followed a stewardship paradigm. They were keitiaki, or caretakers of the river and its catchment. The river was market, pharmacy, church, highway and parent, both place and person at once. To them it was always a living entity. Recognition of the sacred means acknowledging the deep cultural respect inherent in the Maori relationship with the river, where taniwha, or guardian spirits, live in every bend. When the European settlers arrived in the 1800s, they saw only the instrumental value of the river and proceeded to undermine the local tribes. In 1840, the tribal leaders and the Europeans signed what became known as the Treaty of Waitangi. Sadly, since then an ecological debt has been growing. The river was pillaged. The gravel bed was mined for railways and roads. The rapids were dynamited for easier access in paddle steamers. The mouth became a sewage drain and its headwaters were diverted for hydroelectricity, the ultimate disrespect, as the head in Maori culture is the most sacred part of a person. The results of these ill-considered actions had many outcomes, including the significant reduction of an important food source, the eel and lamprey, the loss of traditional concepts and knowledge, such as healing practices, and the people were unable to perform their customary responsibilities to the river. In 1975, the Waitangi Tribunal was commissioned to investigate the continuous breaches of the treaty in the 130-plus years since it was signed, and to recommend ways to address the grievances brought by more than 100 tribes, and so for the communities to develop a shared love of place. Finally, after many years of discussion, justice. The Crown acknowledged that Europeans had used the river for their own advancement and, despite the treaty, had refused to recognise the interests and well-being of the Whanganui people, which clearly contradicts the fundamental objective of a treaty to honour the rights of all parties. In 2017, the Crown issued an apology and acknowledged the breaches of the treaty that took place. Through legislation, it seeks to atone for past wrongdoings and begin to heal the relationships broken over many years of transgressions and mistrust. The Act protects both the river's physical and metaphysical essence. With a collaborative governance model, economic activities can be maintained pending the approval of the representatives whose duties are to administer to the welfare of the river. Maori cultural and spiritual rights as custodians are now recognised. This more accommodating value position finds a compromise between the deep ecology traditional thinking and the anthropocentric notions of the 19th century. The guardianship model creates a precedent for other water governance bodies, and further applications could lead to new solutions and positive outcomes for other non-human entities. In this case, it ensures the river's personal rights and values are considered in future economic, cultural or social proposals, and hopefully it will bring the Whanganui community together with the river in a symbiosis and begin to repay the ecological debt of the early settlers. So, when is a river not a river? The answer, when the river is a person. I'll leave you with this Whanganui proverb. The great river flows from the mountains to the sea. I am the river, and the river is me. Thank you.